And now, Kazakh scientists and researchers will have an opportunity to intern at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. That became possible thanks to educational cooperation between Kazakhstan and the United Kingdom. New time was at public lecture of the founder and director of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, Dr. Farhan Ahmad Nizami at Maksud Narikbayev University in Astana. We asked Dr. Nizami about his thoughts on development of ideology and religion in Central Asia, as well as the role of religion in global geopolitical disruptions. Please watch the fragment of the interview right now. First, let me start our conversation from asking you about the perspectives of the partnership between the MNU, Maksud Narikbayev University, and Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, and what and how it will help to foster further academic mobility.
Well, we have at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies always placed a high priority on having academic relationships across the Muslim world particularly, but right across the world. And Kazakhstan, Central Asia is such an important part of that we always wanted to develop those relationships. We have had a number of Kazakh scholars at the center in the past. We have had agreements with other academic institutions here, but with MNU, particularly with the emphasis on law and the possibility of opening up in many of these new areas and in economic and human development and the context of the importance of law and Kazakh history and culture. We believe it provides a good opportunity to encourage scholars on both sides to benefit from each other. We hope that it would provide the mechanism for bringing more scholars from Kazakhstan to the center. As I said, we have had a few people from here, but not as many as we would like to. And I hope that encourages that process.
You researched Islam and its history for many years, so I'm really interested about your vision of what patterns of development of the Islam and Islam studies here in this part of the world can you highlight? We're talking about the rapid spread of Islam in recent decades and years in this part of the world in Central Asia. So what do you think about it from the researching point of view?
Well, I think in order to understand this part of the world, or for that matter, any part of the world, it is important to look at it from within, from below, as it were. So this part of the world has made a major contribution to Islamic civilization. In the past, you have been at the crossroads of the transmission of learning to the West and to the East. Many of the major achievements in science, in architecture, in philosophy, and in religious sciences come back to this part of the world. The movement not only of traders but also of scholars, of Sufi orders, of networks. We are talking in the land of Ahmad Yasavi or the land of Farabi. The contribution of this part of the world is immense. But there is a period in which perhaps that has been forgotten, or there hasn't been a similar level of contribution. It doesn't mean that the expansion of Islam is something new. It has been for centuries, going back almost to the 8th century. The issue is why there are certain manifestations in society of things which are perhaps not rooted in Islam, but are more the result of the modern disruption in society. They may be technology-driven, they might be ideology-driven, they might be economics-driven, but this is not about Islam. I mean, to understand Islamic civilization and so on.
What should it be a role and responsibility of religions or religious leaders of the Islamic world in the modern geopolitical crisis? if any? And I'm talking particularly now about the Middle East crisis we're now facing and the reaction of the world we have so far. What do you think personally? Is this conflict has a solution, and what to do about it from the religious point of view?
I think we can have these discussions either in the language of political science or in the language of religion. There is a difference when we start talking about issues which are political, but we want to use the language of religion. Right. And there are other issues which are religious, and we start using the language of politics. Of course, the basic principle of equality, of justice, of similar standards applying to everyone, these are the expectations of everyone. It is not just a religious requirement in today's world. I mean, in many of the issues that you mentioned, the world opinion has changed so significantly. It is the basic human urge to ensure that justice is being done. We can't live in today's age, today in a situation where we are following double standards, where we do not put a human face to the suffering of people in one part of the world, but we do that in other part of the world. And on that, no leader can make a difference unless they are honest in the application of the values that are held closely by everyone. And I think those issues that international organizations personify and have protected, the United Nations and others, I think provide the basis. But it is important they need to be applied equally and uniformly across the board.
Do you believe in a possibility of establishing a common grounds for discussion when we talk about the modern geopolitical crises, and what should be the role of religion in that?
Well, I think the first thing is that you sustain, you establish peace, and then you secure it and sustain it. I think in establishing peace, it is really the modern states, it is international organizations which have a role and a duty to perform that. When it comes to the level of sustaining it on an ongoing basis, that is where society leaders, religious leaders, leaders of industry, champions of industry and so on, they have a role to play.